Okay, so let me just, I'm sharing my screen, right?
Yeah, it is displaying, and
Okay.
you know, Cello's going to wind up kicking it off, and maybe I'll explain. Lisa just texted us to let us know that they just had an interceptor break, kind of a big deal, and so she's headed to the operations center to, you know, deal with an emergency, and so she's asked us to continue on, and for all of us to continue on without her. So we're going to do that. And Cello, you might want to, you know, take the next slide and start in.
Yeah, so what I want to say ahead of time, these times on the side are kind of approximate because you're encouraged to interrupt at any time so that we can have a live discussion. But we are going to start, you know, just with greetings and opening remarks. Lisa's not here, so I'll just go straight to the subject. And we're going to talk about, you know, just team's work goals and how it all fits in, and set the stage for the work of the core team. And this is the agenda. We're going to go through the scope, action items, and then a little bit of a interactive session in the later part. So this is the scope of WISE. We're not getting into sort of the leadership type of issues to define the business mission and goals, but that's what is driving our efforts, which then include people, processes, and technology, and monitoring performance. And the scope of our team is this people side. So we're going to kind of focus on that side. They're all interconnected and interrelated, as you can see. So the graph shows that these three things about assessing system maturity and analyzing as is state and designing, they happen in each one of these quadrants. And then we have a layer of monitoring. Then we have change management, which impacts all of these things, and then monitoring performance. So when we, the monitoring provides feedback on all aspects. We know how the workforce is, organization, processes, technology. We receive information of how well they're doing. And once we receive that input, then this is where all these maturity models and all that stuff happens that we've been talking about, that we consider the feedback and the signal from each one of these, and then the models and assessment method are used to assess and analyze each aspect of the performance and to be then used in change management. So the improvement methods are then when we act on the, so in our case, what kind of things we can do to improve the management of workforce, organizations. So we can use signals from all of these things. We can look at how, for example, our processes are working and decide that we may need to do something about people, like training or organization. So this layer of change management just kind of envelops everything. And the curious thing about this that reflects the sort of systems thinking that we're applying is that change in one of these things, like bringing in new technology, may spark changes and require feedback on the other ones. And we all know that if we bring in new technology and we don't think about how the technology is going to impact the processes, how it's going to impact the workforce organization, that the results are often not so good. So that's this layer of this system of interactions that really make things a bit more complex. So this is where we are as far as our team. We've worked on the assessment tool from UAIM. Most of you or many of you have been involved in the core team developing these things. These are the categories. So in WISE, we're going to finalize this. We're going to finalize this tool. We're going to go through the core team and see what kind of things need to be spruced up, changed, adjusted, improved. And then we're going to look at the tools that once we run this, once we get the response from this assessment tool, how do we analyze it? How do we present results? So that's going to be our scope, finalize this and work on these two components. We sort of optimistically designated about 3 months, or, it'll be actually 4 months. It's September, October, November, December, that by the end of this year, we could be done with this. And then in the next phase, this would be done collaboratively, core team and whoever else wants to get involved. And then the idea is that we would have testing and pilot implementation of these methods within each utility. Each utility who wants would try these assessment tools, see what kind of results they receive. And then in the later part, we would then use the experience from these implementations to revise the tools, improve them, the presentation of the results, and integration with change management. And we would start, we would have a break here, a chance to get together here at the 2022 Utility Management Conference, hopefully, and then at the summer workshop, and then start really preparing the case studies and guidelines and applying this thing. So I want to stop at this point. I think that most of you are familiar with this, but I just want to check if there are some questions or comments at this point. Okay. So this is the result of a survey about engagement. I think, Scott, you're going to do some comments on this.
Yeah, so Cello sent this out, and this reflects the responses that we've received, and actually, if there are changes, particularly with respect to the work of this committee and membership on the core team and all of that, we need to make sure we're updating it. But what it shows is a healthy list of participants. Most people are going to be attending these biweekly meetings that we're holding. A takeaway is that the attendance at WEFTEC is going to be somewhat limited, and we have so far 7 people that we're planning to be there. There could be changes up or down to that, and there would be, 5 people at the workshop. I think that what we've done is we've developed some methodologies to meet virtually. We treasure those times that we can be together, hopefully at UMC, and then we'll have to, see if we can meet. We had a great meeting in Portland, right, Mark? When we met it for that workshop in the summer, and a lot of people said they'd sure like to go back to Portland, but we'll have to figure out, what we do there. But we are relying on a lot of virtual meetings that because people just can't travel. A lot of people, a lot of organizations aren't traveling. People indicated who would like to be on the core team, and today we really, from this group, we really do want to kind of update this list. You can do it in the comments if you want to add your name to the core team. You saw we briefly covered what the scope of that work would be. And here are people that are indicating that they would conduct a case study. And several of these, I think, were from Toho Water. So there are a few that have indicated that they do a case study. But if you were identifying a process that you're going to be and the stakeholders associated with it, and doing the assessment tool and applying it there to that process, then hopefully you'd do that, and then you'd be able to do a case study and potentially present the findings either at a webinar or at a conference. And then we had sharing of the artifacts. So we do want to, maybe we just take a pause here briefly because we're okay on time right now, and just ask, are there people that have a no or a maybe down for work on the core team that want to be identified to do that? Because we're going to be setting up those core team meetings, and over the next 4 months, as Cello said, one of those 4 months is almost gone. We'd be doing that work. Any comments? You can raise your hand or speak up, or indicate it in the comments. Does this accurately reflect who wants to be on the core team?
And I just want to mention, if your name is not here, this was the people who responded to the survey. So we don't have, not everybody responded to the survey. So if you don't see your name here, you can just indicate in the chat line if, if at least for the workshop, if you plan to be there or not. And also, like we said earlier, we have, I think, 9 utilities who have signed up who are not part of WISE for the workshop.
Okay,
And
Patricia and Rebecca had their hands up. So does that mean?
sorry.
Yeah, maybe you just want to say what that means.
This is Patricia. Hi, everyone. This is my first meeting since we concluded UAIM. I have cycles where I'm extremely busy and then I, try to jump in. So I just responded to the survey. Like just when you said it, I'm like, let me go in and answer the questions. So I just responded, and I'm willing to work on the core team with the understanding that sometimes I can make it and sometimes I can't. I'm just being honest.
That's beautiful. Thanks.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you.
Rebecca?
Hi, this is Rebecca. I'm not sure I have my hand up, but the information summarized here on the screen is accurate. My intention is to absolutely engage with the core team, but my attendance at WEFTech is very likely a no, so I wanted to be honest about that. So, but otherwise, everything looks accurate. Thank you.
Yeah, because I noticed that Todd Swingle, I mean, you guys just need to, commiserate you, Mike, and Todd, because maybe Todd's information isn't correct, or maybe it is, but he had indicated probably not being on the core team, but that he said yes to a pilot and preparing a case study. So you guys should just get back to us on that.
And one of the things that this shows is that really we're gonna have to rely on the remote communication for some time. So if you have any suggestions about how to conduct these better, or something that has been lacking in the past, just let us know what we can do to improve this. But it's if you are not going to WEFTech, I mean, you can see that. I mean, it's a number of people are not going to be able to make that one, so we'll just adjust and adjust to the situation.
So we won't be conducting business at WEFTech, and we're still not sure about UMC, right, Cello? So we'll.
It will be more of an informational and feedback sessions. We'll go through the workshop agenda in a couple of minutes to kind of let people know what's going to be happening, and then we're going to pretty much try to nail down the schedule and the work plan for the core team to start executing those tasks that we outlined just a little bit earlier in the presentation.
So if anybody has any changes, just let us know. And Jessica, I think, said yes for the core team, which is good.
Okay, I think I have, oh yeah, okay, it's changed to yes, good, good.
So then if you want to move, to the next slide, then we can,
Yeah.
we'll be
I'm
getting
sorry.
to,
Sorry. So, yeah, these are the action items, right? Go ahead. Scott.
yeah, so I think this was, covered briefly in one of the other slides, but we'll be finalizing the assessment method and tools, and the core team will be, as Cello said, looking at the latest version of the survey tool, identifying improvements. We'll fix it, finalize, make a final version, and then you all can, that are going to be doing case studies, can work on the assessment analysis or on the core team and the reporting tools, so that we know not just here's the assessment tool, but how do we analyze it and how do we deal with the the outcomes of the analysis. And then we'll be doing the pilot implementation, and those that are doing the case studies and the pilots should identify a specific process that they want to use. You can choose different ones. We don't have to all do the same thing. And then determine what your current state of documentation is, and hopefully identify a to-be process in conjunction with it, but start development of the statement of work for that, and basically we'll apply the assessment tool to that particular process and the stakeholders that are in it. And then if we can complete that, then we'll be set for next year's workshop, where we can report out on what happened, is what the plan is for the core team.
So
And
this is the sorry.
Go ahead, Cello.
This is the interactive part. So I'm gonna switch if you go there, I'm gonna then switch the screens to actually start running it. Let me just find where the heck it is. This is not.
Were you going to put it in the?
I can put it in the. I'm sorry. I'm trying to find.
He's trying to do 3 things at once here.
Okay. Yeah. This is the Mentimeter itself. So I can put in the chat line this. What I would put is just this www.menti.com. So that's the link that you would use. You can do it on your phone as well. So let me do it. Yeah, so it's in the chat line as well.
So there you go, and
I will then
go to the first question.
Go to the first question. So when I present, that's when you're going to be able to, get in. So this first question is just kind of free form. You can type in whatever you like, and we will compile these to kind of get a sense for where people see obstacles. And when Scott was talking about selecting a process, we thought that it would be easier to look at a specific thing like procurement or like business case evaluation, and then apply the tool to that. So it's not for across the entire organization, but it's a more limited thing. It has immediate and more tangible. It's easier to do, and it's really a pilot that can then be scaled up to other areas or other processes and things like that.
Okay, we're starting to get some. Got one comment.
Oh, okay. That's very good. This always looks funky on a recording because everybody's, all you see on the recording is people, looking at the thing. But you can see my screen?
Yes, and we're getting, now we have 3 comments, so it's starting to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So one of the things we can examine is, instead of making this a survey, really making it as part of a facilitated session when these types of things are discussed, and not, that's the approach, that's something we forgot to mention, so that we can, some parts of the survey have to do with like individual, how individuals feel about something. We will probably not do it in a facilitated session, but we'll try to scale it to a point where it's not not onerous. And when you select a process, to select a process where people maybe have a little bit less survey fatigue, and if they feel that it's really, a little bit more related and targeted to what they're working on, maybe we'll have better luck. But it'll be a lesson to learn. Okay.
Okay, we have eight responses now.
Okay.
No, that's a good point, is that providing some framing for the effort, which is, kind of an internal thing on your part, but we can definitely support that. And you don't want to overwhelm them with too many slides, but you want to tell them what are they doing and why, and what this is about.
So maybe I should move to the next one, you think?
Yeah. Is there anyone who needs more time? Let's just go to the next question then.
Okay.
What are the and people, what are the important outcomes you would like to see our WISE team accomplish this year? And we're starting to get some responses.
This is really useful for us.
Yeah.
Because we put these draft plans together, but then it's really important to know what the utilities, where utilities want to have the focus, and so this is really excellent.
Yes, and some people who are responding may not be doing a pilot in their organization,
Yeah.
but they seem to be responding, favorably to, the first and the third item, and then the fourth item. There are the other teams out there that are implementing improvements where this assessment tool can be provided and integrated in. So I think people like Dan Ott, for example, who with Kotachu is leading the effort for CIP. They're interested in seeing how this can be integrated.
Yeah.
Okay, just one more response to come.
I'm always on this side, so I don't know how awkward or easy it is to respond to these questions. I hope it's not too bad.
Okay, maybe we're not going to get the.
Okay, let me see.
Okay, this is the last one.
Yeah.
Do you have suggestions on how to enhance the value of this effort to you and your organization? What can we do to, make it more effective for you? you've already raised a couple challenges or questions. What are things that you'd suggest we can do?
Okay,
That's good.
this is a good point, and maybe I wonder if it'll be in other groups. We've sort of had sessions where people said, okay, this is how we deal with workforce, or these are the things we're doing on workforce in our utility. I wonder if this would be, yeah. Well, thank you for the kind words. Okay. And I assume that WEF would also be acceptable before presentations. Because we have some things lined up. This is very helpful. We'll just leave it there for a minute or two. Okay, it seems like that's really emerging and it's consistent what we've seen. So we'll after this, we pull down these questions. We can see if anybody who's on the phone today would be willing to at our next meeting say, well, these are the interesting things we're doing these days, and share with others.
Yeah, and I think the second thing for the next meeting would be for us to be able to report back on here are core team members who are planning to do a case study, and here's a process that they've selected, to use.
Okay, maybe this is all we're gonna get. So I'll just, usually it's like whatever first comes to your mind. So let me just go back to this. And so
Cello, since we have, time,
Yeah.
just for the sake of participation, are there comments that people want to express here? Not in chat and not on the survey, but did you want to, basically speak to any of the points that you made, or any, comments or concerns or issues or anything?
Yeah, there's a quick comment, Scott. There is, I think in some people's minds, there may be a difference between a quote unquote presentation among the peers within WISE and then the greater peer level, which would be WEF. I think there's a difference there because there's also this education piece that would go along with a technical session type presentation that people may just be a little hesitant on. So that's just a sense, maybe, and it's reflected by the 4-question Mentimeter, where people want to see the assessment done and the guidelines done first before getting involved with a case history. I think there is interest in doing the case histories. That's clear too from that question, but people seem to be kind of want to make sure they understand the tools and how they work first.
Yeah, no, that's a good point, Mike. And I think Fadon might be on the line. I think I saw that she had joined, and a point that she has made and WEF has made is that what we want to do is at the WEF conference and utility management conference, as much as possible, we want to highlight utilities and use pilots and have the utilities speak to those and feature utilities. So I think that was, it's not just general education, which is going to be the focus pretty much for the upcoming WEF Tech, because the audience, the people who've signed up for it, are pretty much new utilities that aren't even part of WISE yet. So Cello will get into that in a second, but and then we also noticed that Patricia, you had your hand up.
I wanted to make sure I wasn't on mute. Yes, thank you. I wanted to not just echo only what Mike said because I agree, but I also think that the step after we finalize the documents is to put it in a format where we can really present it to our leadership. Because, and I saw somebody commented that wasn't my comment, but I would have, given it like 5, thumbs up on it, because if we can't, I can't do a case study. I can't do a pilot unless my leadership team, my executive team agrees. So having a package that we can put together, something short and then something a little bit more detailed, like a really short executive summary kind of package, small, 3, whatever PowerPoints, but then something in depth, a little bit more in depth with a little bit more detail in case somebody, because you have some executives that really want to get into the nuts and bolts, but having that package put together would be helpful, because then maybe we would do a case, or maybe we would, implement the pilot. Those are options. I can't commit to that until I have something like that.
Oh, that's a very important point. So where we were asking who wants to do a pilot, some of you might say, well, I'm not sure yet. and
Exactly.
and so that could continue to evolve.
I wrote it down. That's a really good comment. So thank you very much for that. So I think that Fidan is no longer there. I don't see her.
That's fine. We can speak for her, but
yeah.
Once you go ahead and.
So this is at the time we got the information of who's going to participate in the workshop, we noticed that there were a lot of people, not a lot, the most of the people who had already registered were not existing utilities.
We are very much keen.
Oh, geez.
Expand.
Come on, go. So this is how the workshop is laid out. And you can see that there are 4 blocks, and they're kind of delineated with these yellow things that are interactive sessions. So the first block is just the first 3 things are the presentations and introductions by WEF, Fidan, and Barry Liner, because this is a WEF program now. And then some notes and comments from Mark Poling on the steering committee. And then the first thing we're going to focus on is business processes. And Dan Ott will show how they use that at these methods and tools at KC Water. And I'm going to briefly introduce a set of methods to assess how much business process modeling we need, how well do we define business requirements, and so forth. And then Mike Sweeney is going to facilitate a session. These yellow things are always the talking to people, is then followed by talking with people, and we try to minimize the talking to people and have as much interaction as possible. Then there's a networking break, and the second block is on the technology column, and Kevin Johnson from Stantec is taking the lead on the WRF 5039 project, which looks at intelligent water systems and smart utilities. So there's a maturity assessment there that's developed for the technology stack that fits very, very well and very naturally into what we do. And Duncan McCara from DC Water is going to then facilitate the discussion. So that's in the morning. I want to stop and see if there are any comments on the morning sessions. Zanetta.
Sorry about that. I was trying to mute myself. I just I don't have a comment about this particular workshop. I think it's outlined very, very well. I guess what I'm asking, is there going to be any opportunities for the Pacific work groups to meet at all? I'm totally lost. And it's not your all's fault. It's because I have such dual roles with the WebTech. But that's what I was wondering.
Yeah, that's an excellent question. We've had a bit of what do you call it? These rides at the amusement parks with this, because the original proposal was done for the workshop was done in 2019 for WEFTEC at 2020, and then it didn't happen. And so we reworked the proposal one way in which there was really working sessions on these topics, just like you said, Zonetta. Then I received note from WEF that didn't show any participant from WIDE has signed up for the workshop. So all the participants that have actually registered were from other utilities. So then we said, well, we can't jump into working sessions with those because they haven't, we need to have more of broad introduction. So we kind of flopped back and forth on whether to make it more accessible for people who are there for the first time, and then how much sort of it can be oriented to the inside, the people who are already on the program. So that's, Zonetta, what we've been struggling with and trying to adjust. And I have this information about who will be there, but at the time that we did this, the official registration didn't show any participants. So we may get in the workshop, we may get 5 people from WISE. That's according to the survey. But as you see, vast majority is either no or a maybe. So that's why the idea of having working sessions for this group became a little bit more challenging. Am I answering your question okay?
Yeah, it does, because my mind was stuck at us doing that. And so, yeah, because when I signed up for this, and I'm on the utility management committee, and we've got to go back and, a lot has evolved. And that's where this has happened, is where some of the stuff wasn't even on the registration site. We recognize that, like, for instance, the leadership roundtable that I'm helping with. And so we have to even go back and ask people to add those things. So that makes sense. No, I was wondering if I missed something. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate you taking the time out to explain it to me.
Yeah.
I apologize for the interruption.
No, that's not an interruption. There was I think, a clarification that probably helped others on this call. We, because we had it set up exactly like you suggested originally. And then when I saw that all the people who signed up are not part of WISE, I said, well, that's not going to work. So we've been kind of going back and forth. Scott, you have a... Well,
yeah, a couple things. One is Roxy was saying, is this going to be virtual? And the answer is no, that it's just going to be live with those that are there. We can talk about what was learned. We can share the presentation with you, but it's just, and I think you understand that. The other thing, just partly for Zonetta, is so what we want to do is we want to have it be successful, and so it is. These are new potential utilities who might consider participating in WISE. So we want to convey information on the one hand, and on the other hand, we want to say, okay, you've sat there and you've listened, to what each of these 4 segments are what's happened and what's being intended to do. What is the feedback that you have, the suggestions, what would you like to see? What do you like? What suggestions would you have? What challenges would you see in your organization? So we'll have these discussion and feedback sessions that hopefully will help inform us, that way as well.
Yeah, and Roxy, we're kind of a little boat that's on the WEF, and when they're the ones who decide whether it's in person and or virtual. So we're just making adjustments based on what their decision was. And at this point in time, it was all in person. Although as we proceed, you'll see that the next presentation from 1 to 1:45 is on this topic, workforce and organizational culture. But none of the people who are on the, well, almost nobody who was on the court. We had a really good core team, strong core team, and several people who were critical, like Kesra and Alice and Parijat. None of them are coming. So what we're going to do, they're not coming to WEFTEC. So what Scott's going to work with them to prepare a video that we're going to show. So although it's not a virtual conference, we'll at least be able to allow these people to present with the recording, but we don't have a mechanism to kind of engage participants who can, you know, be in these interactive sessions. We don't have that two-way thing, logistics worked out, and that's just kind of we're trying to adjust whatever the decisions are in general about the WEF conference.
An advantage for workforce and organizational culture is that we will have this video and we can use that video later too. So it should be, you know, Lisa's going to provide a context and Alice is going, or Kesra is going to speak to what the process and the assessment tool is, and then Alice is going to talk about what the future plans are this year going forward. So you know, it should be a good composite, and we're looking to have each of these 4 segments really be very informative.
Yeah, and the last segment is Ramana Harry. I need to say she's with the City of Baltimore. I need to note that down. She'll talk about our change management efforts, and I think I need to work out the times because I see now that she's only has 15 minutes. I gotta make that. I gotta make some adjustments there. So this is kind of how we ended up, considering all the constraints and all the changes that were happening. I think this is where we are right now. Any comments from folks? I'm gonna have to call on Mike Sweeney because he's my favorite target to pick on. What do you think, Mike?
Well, can we, if we got a good cell connection, could we maybe do something and not get in trouble with WEF?
That's the second part is what I'm worried about.
The trouble with WEF?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I don't know, you know, I know that WEFTEC conference is hugely important for WEF.
Yeah.
And Mike, and that, you know, there is probably some tangible impact and a lot of talk going into whether they're going to have a virtual or in person. And I'm a little bit, I'm seeing that kind of like a third rail, you know. So I
Fedon and WEF, you know, what they think. We've tried it before and it hasn't worked all that well.
The problem we've had in the past, Mike, is we'd have to run something like Teams or something like that. Yeah. And when the people who are in the room could see each other, they could see the flip charts and things like that. So when we tried it without Teams, just people being on the phone, it was so difficult because it was difficult for them to really participate because they're not at the table. And maybe there's some better way to do it, but we were not able to make it work very well, you know.
Okay.
So yeah, it's going to be a little easier when the pandemic's over and people start, you know, traveling a little bit more. So any thoughts or comments on this? And this is, you know, I'm finalizing just this draft. I need to put City of Baltimore, but hopefully on the plus side, maybe some of these 9 utilities who are going to be there, who are not part of it. Maybe a couple of them, join us. Although if we had an in-person meeting and they had a chance to personally talk and bond with people it would have been much, 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 much better. So let me see
expand this peer-to-peer.
I'm gonna let me just. So the question now is, we're gonna, since we don't have a large group today, and some of the people here, like Alice and Jessica and Rebecca, are gonna engage on the core team, and Pat, I think, as well, right? So I'm gonna send out.
Yes.
Excellent. So I'm going to send out an email trying to find time where we can get together, just like we've done on the UA. Look at where we are and kind of start detailed planning for the future. Because on every one of these initiatives, we have people who really want to roll up their sleeve and engage and be active and implement. And we have people who may be actually paying most of their attention to, like, asset management, but they want to participate here to hear and hear the discussions and learn a little bit. So we'll try to line up the meetings for the core team in the off week, means not the week when we have this call, but in the following week, to kind of spread it out a little bit more. So if you can respond to help us set the time, we'll have a working session on that. And so this was really all that we wanted to cover today, and kind of get ready to get to detailed work. Any other thoughts before we stop recording and give people a little bit of time back? Mike is leaning, I think.
Yeah, I haven't given up on my concern here that the workshop, might suffer from a little bit of an impact with attendance. Maybe I should cover this offline, but just a suggestion, maybe WEF can give us an idea what registration looks like for the rest of the workshops. And if it is down, then maybe they'd be willing to bend a little bit at some point in time, that we would be allowed to do something that would be real time, that would be helpful to our two Ys. We can cover this offline.
Yeah, you're using Logic again. I think we talked about this.
That's what my wife tells me too.
I think we talked about this. Yes, it makes perfect sense. So yeah, we can talk offline.
Okay.
Mark, you were sort of inside the tent for WEF. What do you think? I mean, you know more about
I think it's just a question of what do we want to do, and then what their agreement with whoever. I think we're in the conference center, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it just depends on what, we've brought in laptops before to use, but as long as we're not violating some big rule for the conference center has, because normally they have a contract to provide all of the AV. So we just have to check in with WEF. I don't think it would be a big deal if we wanted to put like a conference phone or something like that. But I think if we wanted to bring in a camera and other things like that and project stuff, then I think that we would have to go through the AV people. But I don't know if it's a big deal if we brought in a conference phone.
Can I share this? This is Zonetta. I think what you have to look at, because I've done conference organizations, and this has been an issue about hybrid and what have you. I think it really boils down to participating in something that is a paid You have to register to attend. And I think that's really what the issue is, because I've been on another conference, and if you weren't, I'm on a committee, but if you weren't registered, I couldn't attend that committee meeting at the conference. And I think that's really what it boils down to. It's not even the logistics, is that you're allowing people to attend something that they haven't paid.
Oh,
that's
that's
really
excellent. Yeah,
No, I'm just telling you, that's probably what it is. And that's the unfortunate unintended consequences of making a decision whether something's going to be hybrid or it's going to be what have you. And WebTech is having some committee meetings that are in person, and then prior to that having those committee meetings prior to WEF. So they may allow it, but I'm sure that was probably the auspices of what the decision is. Being careful with that. I just want to just add that caveat.
Oh, that's excellent. I never thought of that. Yeah, so that always waits at least 50 minutes before she wants to, bring something, bring in a game changer.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but it's really good. I tend to agree with her. And Chicago's a big union town, to Mark's point, and that trickles down. So yeah, okay. What I was thinking of it is that we're just a little less than a month out, right? We're just about, yeah. And yeah, we cannot say anything, but a week before, if registration for this workshop has gone from 7 to 8, and the rest of them are kind of doing the same thing, what would be wrong to go ahead and proceed? I don't think this group would complain about their organizations having to pay 100, whatever it is, 99 or something like that.
I would ask. Yeah.
Yeah.